Imagine walking through the thick Amazon rainforest, sweat dripping down your face, when suddenly you stumble upon something that makes your jaw drop. Perfect circles carved deep into solid rock, so smooth they look like giant bathtubs made by who? Or what? These aren't your average potholes. We're talking about massive, perfectly round holes that go down over 20 feet into pure sandstone. Some are so deep, locals warn you can get trapped by mysterious whirlpools that form inside them. And here's the kicker. Scientists have been scratching their heads about these things for decades. Today, we're diving deep into one of the Amazon's most mind-bending mysteries. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll be questioning everything you thought you knew about what nature can and cannot do. So buckle up, because we're about to explore the impossible holes that shouldn't exist. Picture this. You're in the middle of nowhere, northern Brazil, surrounded by trees so thick you can barely see the sky. You've just hiked 6 kilometers through muddy trails, dodging insects and who knows what else. Your legs are burning. You're questioning why you left your couch, and then bam! You see them. Dozens of perfect circles carved into the rock beneath a thundering waterfall. But these aren't just any holes. They're called marmitas by locals, which literally means cooking pots in Portuguese. And when you see them, you'll understand exactly why they got that name. We're talking about the Mutum waterfall in Presidente Figueiredo, Amazonas. This place is so remote that most people have never heard of it. You can't just drive up and park. No, sir. You need to commit. 6 kilometers of jungle hiking just to witness what might be one of nature's greatest mysteries. But here's where it gets really weird. When you finally reach these formations, you're not just looking at random holes. We're talking about perfectly circular, perfectly smooth cavities that look like someone took a giant drill and just went to town on solid sandstone. Some of these bad boys are over 6 meters deep. That's about 20 feet down into solid rock. The locals have been talking about these things for generations, but the scientific world? They've been pretty quiet. Too quiet, if you ask me. These formations are sitting right there in one of the most biodiverse places on Earth, and yet most geology textbooks don't even mention them. And here's something that'll make your skin crawl. Tourists who visited describe an eerie feeling when they get close to these holes. Like something's watching them. The water around them moves in ways that don't make sense. It swirls and spins even when there's barely any current. What could possibly cause that? The strangest part? These holes are always perfectly clean. No debris, no leaves, nothing. It's like something keeps sweeping them out. But what? The jungle takes over everything within days, yet these ancient formations remain spotless. When you stand at the edge of one of these marmitas, looking down into the dark water below, you can't help but feel like you're staring into something that doesn't belong on our planet. The indigenous people of the region have stories about these places. Stories they don't like sharing with outsiders. Stories about things that live in the deep water and spiral formations that act as doorways. But hey, that's just folklore, right? Just old stories to scare tourists. Except when you see the perfectly carved spirals inside some of these holes, spirals that seem to go deeper than anyone has ever measured, you start to wonder. Maybe those stories aren't just stories. What do you think could have created these perfect circles? Drop your theories in the comments below. And if you've ever been to a place that felt off or supernatural, share your story. I read every single comment. Okay, so here's where the science folks come in with their fancy explanations. They tell us these marmitas are formed by something called fluvial erosion. Sounds impressive, right? Basically, they're saying water, over millions of years, carved these perfect holes through a process of spinning and grinding. The official story goes like this. About 5 million years ago, water started flowing over this sandstone. Rocks and sediment got caught in small depressions, and then, through the magic of physics, started spinning around like a washing machine. Over millions of years, this spinning action allegedly carved out these perfect circles. But here's where I start getting suspicious. If this is such a common geological process, why aren't there more of these formations? Brazil has thousands of waterfalls, countless rivers, and similar sandstone formations all over the place. Yet these perfectly formed marmitas are incredibly rare. And another thing that bothers me, the timeline. Scientists claim these took millions of years to form, but nobody can explain exactly how long. Some say 5 million years, others say it could be much longer. But here's the kicker. They can't explain why the erosion stopped. Why aren't these holes getting deeper? What suddenly made the process stop? The water flow at Mutum isn't particularly special. It's not some raging torrent that could explain the intense erosion needed to carve through solid sandstone. It's just normal waterfall flow. Yet somehow, according to scientists, this gentle water managed to create formations that look like they were made by industrial machinery. And let's talk about those vortexes that form inside the holes. Scientists acknowledge they exist but can't explain why they're so strong or why they form in some holes and not others. Local guides warn tourists to stay away from certain marmitas because the underwater currents can trap swimmers. But if these are just simple erosion patterns, why would they create dangerous whirlpools? Here's another red flag: the lack of research. For geological formations that are supposedly 5 million years old and represent such a perfect example of fluvial erosion, there's surprisingly little scientific literature about them. A few papers here and there, but nothing comprehensive. Nothing that really digs deep into the mystery. The sandstone in this region is from the Namunda Formation, which is well studied. Scientists know this rock type, they understand how it erodes, they can predict how water should affect it. Yet these marmitas don't follow the normal patterns. They're too perfect, too smooth, too deep for normal erosion. And here's something that'll blow your mind. Similar formations exist in other parts of Brazil, but they're not all in the same geological context. Some are in different rock types, different elevations, different water flow patterns. Yet they share the same mysterious characteristics. If this is just simple erosion, why are the results so eerily similar across completely different environments? The scientific community seems awfully comfortable with explanations that have more holes than Swiss cheese. Pun intended. They wave their hands and say, millions of years of erosion, but can't explain the specifics. They can't replicate the process. They can't even agree on the timeline. Maybe, just maybe, there's more to this story than they're telling us. Do you buy the official scientific explanation, or does something feel off to you too? Let me know in the comments what you think is really going on here. And if you know any geologists, tag them. I'd love to hear their take on this mystery. Now we're getting into the really interesting stuff. What if these marmitas aren't just random geological formations? What if there's a pattern, a purpose, something we're missing? Let's start with the energy angle. There are researchers who believe certain locations on Earth act as natural energy points. Places where magnetic fields, underground water systems, and geological structures create unique conditions. Could the Muta marmitas be sitting on one of these energy points? Think about it. These holes are perfectly circular, they're aligned in specific patterns, and they create unusual water behavior. That sounds a lot like what happens around natural energy phenomena. Some alternative researchers claim these formations could be related to Earth's magnetic field lines or underground water currents we don't fully understand. But here's where it gets really wild. Indigenous peoples in the Amazon have been telling stories about these places for centuries. Stories about sacred sites where the earth and water spirits meet. Stories about holes that connect to the underworld. Now, before you roll your eyes, remember that indigenous knowledge has led to countless scientific discoveries. They knew about medicinal plants, weather patterns, and geographical features long before Western science discovered them. What if these stories aren't mythology? What if they're historical records of something we don't understand yet? Let's consider another possibility. Ancient civilizations. We keep discovering that pre-Columbian Amazon cultures were far more advanced than we previously thought. They built massive earthworks, complex water management systems, and structures that required sophisticated engineering knowledge. What if these marmitas aren't natural at all? What if they're remnants of an ancient technology we can't comprehend? The precision is almost too perfect for natural processes. The spiral patterns inside some of these holes look suspiciously like engineered designs. And the fact that they remain clean and functional after thousands of years suggests some kind of advanced understanding of materials and design. Here's something that'll make you think. Similar formations exist in other parts of the world, often in places with rich ancient histories. Giant's kettles in Scandinavia, potholes in South Africa, circular rock formations in various parts of Asia. What if these aren't coincidences? What if there's a global pattern we're not seeing? The positioning of the Muta marmitas is also suspicious. They're not randomly scattered. They follow the water flow in a way that suggests intentional placement. It's like someone knew exactly where to put them for maximum effect. But who? And why? Some researchers have suggested these formations could be connected to ancient astronomical observations. The circular shapes, the precise measurements, the alignment with water flow. It all sounds very similar to ancient calendar systems or astronomical observation tools. And here's a thought that keeps me up at night. What if these holes serve a purpose we can't see? What if they're not just carved depressions but functional systems designed to do something specific? The vortexes, the water patterns, the mysterious cleaning action. What if it's all connected to a purpose we've forgotten? The Amazon is full of secrets. We're discovering new species, new ecosystems, new evidence of ancient civilizations all the time. Why is it so hard to believe that these marmitas might be more than just erosion patterns? The indigenous peoples of the region treat these places with respect, often avoiding them or approaching them only for specific purposes. They talk about the water having memory, about the stones holding ancient knowledge. Western science dismisses this as superstition, but what if it's actually sophisticated understanding of phenomena we haven't figured out yet? Maybe the real question isn't how these holes formed, but why they formed where they did, when they did, and what they're really for. This is where things get really controversial. Do you think ancient civilizations could have created these formations? Or maybe there are natural forces we don't understand yet? Share your wildest theories in the comments. The more creative, the better. Here's where this story takes a dark turn. Remember those vortexes I mentioned? They're not just gentle swirls. We're talking about underwater currents strong enough to trap human beings. Local guides know which holes to avoid, but that information isn't exactly being broadcast to the world. Several tourists have reported near-drowning experiences in these marmitas. They describe being pulled down by unexpected currents, feeling like something was grabbing their legs, being unable to swim against the spiral flow. Yet these incidents rarely make it into official reports or safety warnings. Why the silence? You'd think that geological formations with dangerous underwater currents would be heavily monitored and regulated. You'd expect warning signs, safety barriers, regular inspections. Instead, what we have is a remote location that's difficult to access, minimal official oversight, and a disturbing lack of scientific study. The Brazilian environmental agencies seem curiously uninterested in these formations. For a country that's usually protective of its natural wonders, the lack of attention paid to the Muta marmitas is suspicious. No comprehensive geological surveys, no safety assessments, no environmental protection measures. And here's something that should terrify you. Nobody knows how deep these holes actually go. The official measurements say 6 meters, but that's just as far as anyone has been able to safely measure. Local stories suggest some of these holes are connected to underground river systems that stretch for kilometers beneath the rainforest. What happens if someone gets pulled into one of these underwater cave systems? How would rescue teams even find them? The remote location means help could be hours away, and the complex underwater geography makes rescue operations nearly impossible. But it gets worse. Some researchers have detected unusual magnetic readings around these formations. Compass needles behave erratically, electronic equipment malfunctions, and animals seem to avoid the area. Yet none of this has triggered official investigation or safety protocols. The water temperature in these holes doesn't match the ambient river temperature. Some are significantly colder, others warmer, with no apparent explanation. The water chemistry is also unusual. Different mineral content, different pH levels, different everything. Yet environmental agencies aren't studying this. Local indigenous communities have traditional taboos about these places. They warn about specific times when the holes become dangerous, certain seasons when the vortexes are strongest, particular weather conditions that make the formations unpredictable. But this traditional knowledge isn't being incorporated into any safety guidelines or scientific studies. And here's the really disturbing part. Tourism to the area is increasing, but safety information isn't. More and more people are making that 6-kilometer hike to see these mysterious formations, often without any understanding of the potential dangers. Social media is full of people posing on the edges of these holes, swimming in the dark water, completely unaware of the risks. The lack of official response is almost like someone doesn't want these formations studied too closely. Like there's a deliberate effort to keep them out of the spotlight. But why? What could be so sensitive about some holes in the ground that the scientific and environmental communities would rather ignore them? Maybe the answer is that these formations represent something that doesn't fit into our current understanding of geology, physics, or natural processes. Maybe studying them too closely would raise questions that certain people don't want answered. Or maybe, and this is the really scary possibility, maybe someone already knows what these formations are and what they do, and they've decided that information is too dangerous for public consumption. The silence isn't accidental. It's purposeful. And that should terrify all of us. The lack of official attention to these potentially dangerous formations is honestly disturbing. Have you ever been to a place that felt like it was being deliberately ignored or covered up? Drop your experiences in the comments. Let's compare notes. So there you have it. Perfect circles carved into solid rock in one of the most remote places on Earth. Scientists can't explain how they formed, officials won't study them properly, and the locals whisper stories they don't want to share. Are these just unusual geological formations that happen to look mysterious? Are they remnants of ancient civilizations with knowledge we've lost? Or are they something else entirely? Natural phenomena that operate according to principles we haven't discovered yet? The truth is, we may never know for sure. But that's what makes mysteries like this so fascinating. In an age where we think we've figured everything out, where Google has answers for everything, here's something that still puzzles the experts. And maybe that's exactly how it should be. Maybe some mysteries are meant to stay mysteries. Maybe some questions aren't meant to be answered by science and logic alone. But here's what I know for sure. The Amazon rainforest is full of secrets. Every year, researchers discover new species, new ecosystems, new evidence of things we never imagined. The mutamarmitas are just one mystery in a jungle full of unexplained phenomena. The real question is, what else is out there that we haven't found yet? What other impossible formations are hidden beneath the canopy, waiting for the right person to stumble upon them? If this video has taught you anything, it should be that our planet still has the power to surprise us. Nature, or whatever force created these formations, is far more mysterious and powerful than we give it credit for. So the next time someone tells you that science has all the answers, that there are no more mysteries left to solve, remind them about the perfect whirlpool holes of the Amazon. Remind them that sometimes, the most incredible discoveries are hiding in the most unexpected places. And who knows? Maybe one day, you'll be the one to solve this mystery. Maybe you'll be the one to figure out what these formations really are and why they exist. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and never stop believing that the impossible might just be possible after all. Don't forget to like this video if it blew your mind, subscribe for more mysterious content, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest investigations into the unexplained. And seriously, drop a comment and let me know what you think is really going on with these Amazon holes. Your theory might be the key to solving this entire mystery. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the unknown. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your mind even more open. The truth is out there, and it's stranger than we could ever imagine.